Welcome, everybody, to the Elad Pod. Happy to be back and excited to be back. Our first guest for this new season is going to be Bob Butler, and we are going to talk about Democrats' efforts in Jefferson County, Missouri. We are also going to talk about a United States Senate candidate forum that will be taking place at Jefferson College in Jefferson County on Wednesday, November 3rd at 7 p.m. So we'll talk all about that, answer any of your questions that you have too. So for those of you who are new and have been here the first, thanks for coming. Greatly appreciate it. If you do have any questions or any comments, anything that you want to leave, go ahead and comment wherever you're watching from. If you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, you can put the comments right there. If you're watching on Twitter, you can go ahead and tweet, and I'll see it. Just make sure that I'm in there. My wife one time didn't include me and was very upset that I didn't answer any of her questions. So make sure that you've got Big Elad in your tweet. You can see it live right there right now. If you're on Twitch, you can leave a comment as well. You can also watch on the website, and if you're there, just click the actual YouTube button and you'll be able to leave a comment there as well. For those of you who want to be a little bit more private, or maybe you're watching in a way that you can't just type in your question, you will see a phone number on the screen for most of the show, and you can text that number to send me a question as well. If you call it, sorry, I'm not putting you on today, but go ahead and text and we'll get your questions answered as well. If you're watching right now, go ahead and comment. Let us know where you are watching from. It's always helpful for us to know where folks are watching from around the state and sometimes even around the country, and we've had a few folks from Germany watch. So wherever you're watching from, let us know. But very excited today to have Bob Butler on. Let's make sure that we've still got him. Bob, are you there?
I'm here.
All right, great. Well, welcome to the Elad Pod. It's your first time on the show. Very excited to kick. This is season 4. We're kicking off with you, so this is a big honor interview today.
Well, I'm excited to be here, and I appreciate you inviting me to come on.
Bob also warned us that 5 dogs. You said, correct?
5 dogs, yes.
Okay, and
I
live
a little bit in the sticks, so yes.
And he partially promised that if any of them starts barking and interrupting, that they get some screen time, but we'll see if that works out. Bob, so I'm really excited to have you on. I mean, I've known you for a bit. I should have invited you on earlier to talk, but this is a really good time, I think, to talk about all of the stuff that we're going to be talking about today with Jefferson County and with the Senate forum that's coming up very soon, because there's just so much activity going on, and I've gotten to hear you speak a bit about the efforts that are going on right now in your neck of the woods to really rejuvenate what the Democratic Party is doing there and to make sure that folks are able to participate more in their government, which has really been a big issue in Missouri for, unfortunately, some time now. But don't let me introduce everything. I'd love if you could tell folks what you're doing with the Central Committee, kind of your role there, and why this is something of such interest to you.
Well, I mean, I became the chair of the Central Committee in Jefferson County about a year ago. And, the party, and I like to give a little history of Jefferson County so people kind of understand where we're coming from. Jefferson County, Missouri, and since you're from people around the state, we're just south of St. Louis County, we're the adjoining county. We were a solidly and a reliably blue county for years and years and years. 2008, this county elected Barack Obama by a majority in this county. Then things turned. They turned rapidly, and we turned red very quickly. So in terms of a background of the county and why I think it's so important for what we're doing here is this is a blue collar, hardworking county, and they have working family values here. But there's a disconnect between the Democratic Party that occurred sometime between 2008 and present. And so what we have is we're the 6th largest county in the state. And we have turned red quickly. But I like to point out to people that, when Right to Work was on the ballot, this county was one of the leaders in the state. 78% of the people in this county voted against Right to Work. That's pretty significant. 60% of the people in this county voted in favor of an increase in minimum wage. So what we see is a county where if you throw a map out of the state of Missouri and you say, where can we make gains back? This has got to be one of the spots that we take a look at, because we know we have blue collar, hardworking, working family values here. But they like I said, there's a disconnect with the party right now. So when I took office as the chair, the first thing we said is we needed to reach out and to message people in this county. One, to let them know the Democrats are still here, but two, to really connect with them the idea that, look, you're voting for values that benefit you, but your elected officials, your local elected officials, are doing just the opposite. And so, we were pointing out that we have elected officials in Jefferson County that are voting for right to work, or voting. Were very instrumental in voting against the increase in minimum wage in St. Louis County when they overrode that. So they're working exactly against what you're asking them to do.
Hmm.
So we're putting together a Facebook and multimedia, social media program to try to message really local issues. And then we're also building our foundation and our base back in Jefferson County, and we know that's going to take some work. But as I said, we impact a lot. Jefferson County's been a bellwether county for years. Who wins in Jefferson County wins statewide. We have that, it's that's been consistent over the years. And we do have a huge impact on congressional district number 2, which is Ann Wagner's seat.
Hmm.
Um, and we think we're going to have a bigger input in that. So we think it's a very important county. So we're doing a lot of things like that to try to get things going
Yeah.
in Jefferson County.
Yeah, and I mean you've just on there are very few experiences kind of seeing what folks are thinking and how they're reacting to either a political party or a candidate than being a candidate yourself. And you've had that experience too, because you've really gotten a chance to talk to folks about what their needs are specifically in Jefferson County. And I wonder what, in terms of, you're talking about messaging and kind of the strategy to get there, what kind of messaging have you seen that's worked, or what kind of issues are folks really attracted to when they're deciding a vote? Because I think you're right. I mean, I've visited quite a few union members in Jefferson County and a lot of union clubs, and there's a lot of folks who are connected to labor in one way or another, and a lot of folks who really care about workplace protections and so much more. So I wonder, for you and your experience, what have you seen that folks really do care about in Jefferson County?
Well, I mean, they certainly care. I mean, they care about issues like, I think, medical attention. We're sort of a rural urban area. If you go to northern Jefferson County, which has really become sort of your suburban area of St. Louis County, it's a little different than southern Jefferson County. Now, I've never really run in southern Jefferson County, but they do care
Yeah.
about healthcare. They care about having jobs and good paying jobs. And I do think one of the things they care about in Jefferson County is they want jobs in Jefferson County. There's a large percentage. Jefferson County is a large percentage of people who live in Jefferson County work in St. Louis City, St. Louis County. So they're transient. They're out of the district, or they're out of the county, and then they come back and live in the county. So they want to see jobs in their county. That's one of the issues that they perceive. It is sort of a rural mix. I mean, I would say it's not really what I would refer to as a progressive county. So it's not, for example, you couldn't take a candidate from the city of St. Louis and put them in Jefferson County. That would probably not resonate really well. They're a little more conservative, but what I find that they care is they have some rural values, but they do care about jobs. They care about healthcare. They care about equal pay, in terms of getting paid a fair wage. Those seems to be the issues that do resonate in Jefferson County. From a standpoint that hurts us as Democrats, they identify a lot with. There's a lot of the gun lobby down here is very successful.
Mm.
Gun issue has always been an issue down here, but that's something that we need to message on in a positive tone. So another issue that is, as a very conservative county, we have a lot of people who are anti-abortion down here. So one of the things we've talked about is, look, let's start messaging. Let's quit talking about those issues on their terms. Let's start talking about them on our terms. And that's the messaging that we want to get out. I use the example for like the issue of abortion. Let's quit talking about the issue of, if you say I'm personally against abortion, but I don't want to interfere with a woman's choice. For pro-lifers, it doesn't work. So let's talk about, I'll take Mary Elizabeth Coleman, who's the state representative down here. Look, the reason women choose abortions is because economic issues, a lot of choices. Not being a woman, I can't address all of those, but healthcare, education, those things, they don't feel they can bring a child into this world. So let's address those issues, and let's point out that, listen, Republicans are voting consistently against the reasons, to not help women. Women are choosing these to have abortions because of these reasons, and these Republicans are voting to not help these women in this regard. And then they're saying, well, just say no. Well, that's not working. We know that doesn't work. So, my issue is let's address those issues instead of going back to the old, the old way that we've been addressing them. So let's take issues like that and let's change the format. Let's change how we're going to discuss them, and let's see if we can win them back. I mean, my feeling is, and I'm probably off topic of your question, is there's 40% of the people in this county we're not going to get back. They're QAnon people. They're way to the right. Let's get back to 20% we can get back, because that gives us a majority.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, and I think one of especially when I think in Missouri a lot of folks look at abortion. There's a debate about that within some segments of the Democratic Party and how to discuss it or whatever. I don't know. I've seen. I think that now especially, because where this right comes from is from really the right to privacy and to make private decisions, and to have really your own independent choices about your life. And I think that now, especially given everything that's happening in technology, online, that we're seeing really all around us with all the tech that we're using to just do this right now, it's that the right to privacy has been so eroded by large companies, the government, in so many different ways that, I don't know, I've seen that message. I think you're right in terms of how do you connect with somebody initially from a value side of things where somebody wants to listen to you. I think that really talking about these rights as being fundamental and why they're important and what the kind of background to that is so important. I think to your point too, we don't really do a very good job teaching about history, the history of the state, history of this country in so many ways, and kind of that foundational element where folks, we have forgotten so much. And the old saying is that when you forget history, you're doomed to repeat it. I think that there's so much that we have forgotten about Missouri and the status that we had in pioneering and leading on so many things, that we see a lot of folks who talk about, Missouri being really bad for so many statistics, but we don't really think back to the time when Missouri was, for example, leading in the juvenile court system, or when Missouri pioneered the court plan and choosing judges in an impartial way, or the wonderful education programming that we had that was a model for the rest of the country from the 60s. And I think that there's a lot where folks in a more conservative mindset really worry about tradition and losing what we have, but I think a lot of folks don't realize that we've actually lost quite a bit in Missouri because of unfortunate decisions often made by folks who are in government who do not appear to be representing us as much as they should be. So I think it's interesting. I guess in the efforts that you've made so far, this is kind of a startup right now. Is that kind of the phase that you're in right now?
Yes. Right now, what we're trying to do is we're just trying to build our base. The overall plan is to build a solid social media base so that we're equipped when the election comes around next year, that we can start harping on these messages and we can reach out and have a following that we can have a real impact. So what we've been doing now has pretty much been sort of, I want to call viewer friendly, sort of happy, hey, Democrats care. This is what we do. This is what we are. Here's an introduction. These are our Democratic candidates. We just kind of put them out, all of them out in a favorable light. We're not endorsing anybody. We just put all of our profiles. We profile, people like myself and other members of the Central Committee to kind of humanize the Democratic Party. As look, we're not bad people. We're your neighbors. We live here. And we've had some success with that. And then we're going to move into other areas. We're starting to get a little money, where we're accumulating a little money that we can do some additional paid advertising. We want to get into, one of the campaigns I want to get into is just, again, to attract people, is on the mask issue. We know that a good percentage of even Republicans favor mask mandates. And we want to start getting into the messaging. Look at, we have an organization down in Jefferson County called the Patriots. And they're extremely right wing, and they're bullying our school boards and their school, and our elected officials. Mary Elizabeth Coleman has just filed a lawsuit against our health department for simply making recommendations that the CDC have put out, and they're wasting our taxpayer dollars. So these are messages that we're going to say, look, these Republicans aren't working in your interest; they're working in their interest. And these are messages that we want to build on over time and kind of build our base up so that we're ready to go in the election cycle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we'll get to, for folks, well, I guess no, this is a great time because we'll plug it several times, why not? But for folks who would like to get involved, because Jefferson County is such an important county. I mean, all of the counties are. I know we've got a lot of folks who are watching, but just in terms of the electoral side of stuff, it has been so important in Missouri politics. But we've got the website up. It's on the screen. It's Jefferson County MoDemCentralCommittee.org. It's a long one. Took up a lot of space on the screen. That's okay. You can also see it in the description link right there, too. But folks can go to that website to get more involved, to donate, that sort of thing, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and one of the reasons Jefferson County, as you said, is important, we have, in this upcoming cycle, we have 7 state representative districts that affect Jefferson County. Because of term limits and because of the quick shift from Democrat to Republican down there. 4 of those seats are termed out with Republicans. So we have 4 open seats. Again, I keep mentioning Mary Elizabeth Coleman. She's announced that she's going to run for Senate, which means that's Mike Revis's old seat. So that's actually potentially 5 state representative seats and an open state Senate seat. We affect 3 congressional races, the 2nd, which is Ann Wagner, the 3rd, which is Blaine Luchtmeyer, and the 8th, which is Jason Smith down in Cape Girardeau. Mm-hmm. So we do have a big say in terms of a lot of different elections this county does. We have an impact on a lot of different races. And yes, so it's important for those reasons. And it's significant this time because we have so many open seats that we can try to really make an impact on and get candidates in there. So we're looking to recruit candidates and recruit people to help us with those candidates.
Great. Okay, and if somebody is interested, watching right now, and they're interested in running, can they contact you? Would you? I know you guys can't take a side, if there's a potential primary, but they can contact you to get more information about how to do that, right?
Absolutely. In fact, I mean, as you said earlier, I've run a couple of times, 3 times, and my goal now is to try to help potential candidates just kind of sit them down and say, look, here are the people you need to call. Let's get you started. No matter who, no matter what, I'm not endorsing you, but I want to see strong candidates come out anywhere. So when we have people who approach me, I offer to sit down with them and share all of my contact information that I have with them and people how they can get started and how we can get this rolling. And that's one of the roles that the Central Committee did not really perform before that we're trying to evolve. That I want to get to the point in our county where if you're running for the 111th state representative district, you come to me and we know you're going to be the candidate. We can just say, okay, here's the sign locations. Here's the 25 people you absolutely must call to get this thing done in your county and in your district. Those are the things I think we need to do as a Central Committee. I think every Central Committee needs to do that. Right.
And it's so important to have that knowledge somewhere so that it's not lost and folks know that there's somewhere to go to, get a jump start. We're not reinventing the wheel every time. We do have some comments coming in. Before we get to, because some of these are from your neck of the woods too. Before we do that though, I do want to talk about a bit about the Senate Candidate Forum so that folks know where to go. So let me put that on the screen real quick for everybody so they can see. But there will be a United States Senate Democratic Candidate Forum this Wednesday, November 3rd at 7 p.m. It will be in person at the Jefferson College Fine Arts Theater. And we'll also be streaming it on here, and I bet a bunch of the candidates will be streaming it too. But we'll have that on to really, to get as many folks really hearing from the different candidates who are there. And I know sometimes with having so many candidates on at one time, it can be hard to really go in depth with each one of them. But I'll definitely make the offer then, and I'll make it here too. But if any of them want to come on to do this and take as many questions as possible, happy to do that for any one of them. So, don't get too. There's a certain set time that anybody can moderate a forum for, and it is not it is not forever. So, but that should be exciting. I mean, this is great. This is going to be. I guess this will be the first one with all of them in person. I don't think I've seen another one where they've all been at the same physical place at the same time.
It's the first one that I'm aware of, and the reason I'm excited is, I mean, we tried to pose the questions. We don't want to Trump style debate. We don't think that's productive, but we really want to promote the names. We want to promote that, hey, these are our candidates. Here they are. Get to know them, that they're out there. But we really tried to structure our questions that if you watch the debate and you're wanting to know, hey, where on the spectrum does this person stand versus this person? We're hoping that with the questions that we're asking, that you'll get a good idea of where this person stands, and whether you want to, whether you feel, if you're wanting somebody more progressive or somebody more moderate, where they stand in that realm. Hopefully, this will flush that out. So yes, and I'm really excited because we have two of the candidates are coming from Kansas City area. So I'm very excited. We're going to have them live. The local radio station, KJF, has said that the following day, they won't do it that night, but they will stream it the next day for us on the local radio station. So we're going to have some great coverage. So yeah, we're pretty excited about it.
That's great. So, yeah, no, it's exciting. I get to moderate a little bit too, so that'll be fun. Yeah,
we appreciate you moderating.
Oh yeah, no, I'm excited to do it. Yeah, hopefully we'll go without a hitch. Yeah, I think I think with the candidates that we've got, I'm not too worried about somebody yelling over the questions or anything. I think everybody's going to be very civil about that, so it should be an easy one to moderate, unlike some recent ones we may have seen on national TV. Great question from Bill over in Rolla, actually. Hold up. So let me put this up on the screen real quick. He wants a direct link to promo it on Facebook. That's great. And for anybody who wants to, wonderful, go ahead and comment down here. There's actually going to be a couple of ways for you to do that. One of those is, kind of the traditional sharing it once the link is live. But if you'd like to actually get on the pre-scheduled link, I can send you a website for you to actually sign up. So if you've got a Democratic club or if you've got your own page and you just want to share it ahead of time so that folks know it's going to go live automatically, I've got a link for you too. So just let me know, send me a message, and Bill, I've already got you on the list for that, so we'll do that. But for folks who do want to come and are available in person, I do have that link up too. You can actually RSVP ahead of time, and there's a nice short link right there. It's a bit.ly link, so that's bit.ly/Jeffco Forum, and you will be able to RSVP there. And Bob, just based on COVID protocols and everything else, it's probably a good idea for folks to RSVP ahead of time just to make sure that they've got one of it's 150 spots, right?
We don't have 150 left. I can tell you that. We
good.
have reservations at this point of around right around 100, a little more than 100. So, and we have to make a provision for about 20 for candidates.
Yeah.
So I figure there's about 30, 35 spots left to appear. So yeah, we'd like to fill the place up. The auditorium holds 300, but because of COVID, we can only have 150 people in there. There will be a mask requirement. For two reasons. One, we don't want the trolls, but also we want to be safe. So yeah, if you can make it, let RSVP so we can fill the list out. We have tickets, but we're not. It's really more of a will call thing. You'll have your name down, come in and report in, and come on in. So
right, yeah, should be a good time. I think we'll learn quite a bit that day. So it should. We'll go on for a couple of hours. So just kind of expect that. When can folks can start coming in a little bit early though, before 7, right?
Yes, we have the auditorium from 6. So from about 6 to 6. I mean, we can get a little early to set up, but about 6 o'clock, people can start coming in if they want to come in to the event. So
great. Okay. So yeah. So if you've got some time, come on early. You can say hi to before we get started. But 7 o'clock is when we'll get the forum going. But yeah, very excited for that. And like I said, if your question is not asked during the forum, don't worry. Just ask them in the comments, whatever it is, and then we'll try to have them on later so that they can ask your question in particular when you're watching. So, great
We're
question,
also
Bill.
just
Thanks for putting that on. Oh, go ahead.
Well, one other thing I was going to say is if you want to show up, we're hoping to get, at least from CD2, a couple of the candidates, Congressional District 2, could come down to be there. So they may be around in the hall afterwards if people would
Right.
like to meet the candidates.
Yep.
I haven't got complete commitments from them, but I do anticipate them being there.
Yep. No, that's great. Yeah, I mean, if you guys are watching, come on down. Whatever you're running for, even if you're thinking about running, this is a great opportunity to come see, kind of see how this can go, because there are when you are running for office, there are a lot of people who have a lot of questions, and it's always good. I've always found it great to see how people kind of respond differently, what those different questions can be. Goodness, I mean, on my campaign, did probably 600 and something meetings, and there was towards the 500 level was, there were very few questions I was getting that were new, but sometimes it's not just about the question, it's also about where the person is asking that question from, and it might actually be something that's deeper that they're not really sharing with you on the surface that you kind of learn about later. And those can make some great conversations. And we actually had a lot of input from folks and putting policy proposals together for what the Attorney General's office can do. And so, I mean, if you're a candidate, if you're somebody who's interested, great opportunity to see what folks are thinking, talk to folks, learn more, and meet Bob. Goodness gracious, it's a great opportunity to do that too. So we do have a Jefferson. Oh, look at this from Jefferson County. This is great. Okay, and you actually hold up, Lorraine. Let me get you here. You actually had some other issues that you are seeing in particular in Jefferson County. Infrastructure, like flooding and internet. That last part, certainly flooding, we have seen quite a bit of, and more so now. The internet question is a really interesting one too, because when you're talking about getting the word out and getting the message out to folks, there are, especially in rural areas of the state, there are pockets where internet connectivity, cell phone connectivity is not great, and it's hard to get really some of these resources that are now so concentrated online versus where they used to be, especially with local newspapers that are unfortunately dying out. Some are doing well, but a lot of them are not right now. And we've got a lot of radio stations that may have one perspective focused on versus another. So are there, I mean, I guess in terms of looking at one, like those issues in particular in Jefferson County, but two, also in terms of getting the message out to folks who may not have as strong of a connection to those internet resources, what are the thoughts there to reach folks in those situations too?
Well, I mean, we just have to reach out on an individual basis. I mean, we have to get our local members. Phone calling becomes, sort of the traditional ways of doing it.
Yeah.
But Lorraine brings up a really good point, because those issues sort of impact. Arnold, you can probably get pretty good internet reception. I live out in Barnhart right now. I'm on an AT&T hotspot because I can't get internet service, so my internet's a little questionable.
Yeah.
So that's a real issue for people who live. I have the fiber optic cables that go right along the bottom of my street, but I can't get them to come up and connect with my house because of cost. So
who do we talk to about that, Bob? Who do we talk to?
Listen,
I'll have them on next week. We'll get them on here.
I always said if I would have won the election, I would have gotten internet service here. But
Yeah.
That is a real issue. And when we talk about, you talk about that issue, that's something that really affects us further you go south in Jefferson County. Because when you get down, into the Festus area and down in Crystal City, and even those spots are not too bad. But as you get further down in DeSoto and further south in Olympian Village in Jefferson County, those folks don't have really great. They just don't have great access. That's why that infrastructure bill is a real important bill to affect Jefferson County. The flooding issue is really sort of a new. When I say new, it's not completely new, but they came in and they fixed up in down in Fenton to try to help some of the flooding down there. Well, that just pushed the water into Jefferson County.
Mm-hmm.
Highway 55 closed 2 times in the last 4 years, where they actually had to shut. You had no access in and out of Jefferson County off of 55 for about 2 or 3 days. That had never happened before. And so, yeah, so that is an issue that is impacting people here. And those infrastructure bills are important for Jefferson County, and people do care about them. And they care more about them usually in the spring. It's probably why that slipped my mind, because I'm not thinking about it right now, but I will be in a few months. Um, that becomes that becomes a problem.
Right. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. There's just. I mean, there's so much in terms of how like flooding is a great example of how policy can impact so much, especially when you're thinking about where you're putting levees and where you're really running the water and what the impact is that's going to be downstream, upstream, everything else. And that is a conversation that unfortunately it seems like the few people who are most impacted are always ready to have that conversation, but the rest of us really aren't until the highway's not working too well, and then that becomes the problem. Would be nice to have more of a long-term vision, but yeah, I think I think that just really depends on who we've got up there. But yeah, infrastructure, I think all around the state really is such a big key issue, and the governor, I mean, he's been talking quite a bit about it too. Really promoted increasing the gas tax this last time for road construction and projects. There was a lot of debate about whether that was the right way to go about doing it, but now there's this federal proposal to really bring a lot of investment into Missouri, which is such a central corridor to so much of the trade and the road networks that are going throughout the country. I mean, it's a very big deal for our state and our state's economy to deal with infrastructure, and any kind of proposal to really fix that would be I think would be welcome in a lot of ways, especially for those who have traveled over state borders and all of a sudden see that the roads are much nicer on the other side, which is just depressing to see. But yeah, I wonder. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, one thing I was going to add is because I think your question sort of also directed, how are we going to message those people?
Right.
I know we started our program with Facebook. That's where we started. That was our base. But now we've opened a Twitter account, and we're starting to hit Twitter. We're also, as having run for office, you can now do text messaging.
Yeah.
You can hit large volume. So we want to build that base up for that reason, because while they might not get good internet, they're taking their phones places where they do pick up internet. If we hit them with text messages, Twitter, Instagram, eventually we're going to expand into all of those mediums once we get a little up and running and a little more money in the bank, and we can do those things. That's where we want to hit our messages. So hopefully we're going to get people, get that message out in those ways.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest benefits, I was just talking about, I was up in Hannibal last week. Well, no, this past week, and talking to a group of folks there, and one of the big issues, at least that I talked about, and I think folks in the room really agreed, is that the information that we have on voters as a party could certainly be stronger, especially in areas where maybe the Democratic Party organizationally hasn't been as strong. And so there hasn't been as much outreach. So when you're talking about direct calls and text messages, that stuff is great, because when you get responses from folks, you're actually helping everybody who's going to be using this Democratic phone book into the future too, which is helping candidates, it's helping the committees going forward, it's helping other groups that are trying to reach out to voters. So that's a really crucial long-term thing too. Nobody likes to get those texts where it's like, hey, Joe, I'm sure this is you because this is the number I bought and it said Joe next to it. Would you do this for me? And that's not you. You're Sarah. You're not Joe. And it's always, usually your first impression is very important, especially when it's coming through a text message. So I don't know how if you've experienced that, but even in, I mean, I think this is true statewide, but certainly more in particular areas where those phone calls haven't been going on for a while. But what have you seen in terms of, has that been your experience too with the data with candidates who are running and they're kind of struggling with the resources that they have right now?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, when
Yeah,
you're running, even down here when you ran before, just the resources in terms of messaging, it's hard.
right.
Even if you're talking about cable or whatever, those are hard mediums for us to hit in Jefferson County, and I think in most rural areas it is. And we're now in northern Jefferson County; it's a different scenario again than southern Jefferson County. So we have sort of two different areas that we kind of have to deal with. So,
Hmm.
yeah, resources are tough. I mean, another reason that resources are tough in Jefferson County right now is just because a lot of people don't believe in Jefferson County right now because they're looking at the last couple elections. So that's the other thing. We've got to fight. We know that we're not going to flip this in 2 years. It may take 4, 6, 8 years. So it is a long-term project, but we're hoping things like infrastructure and those things that will be built will be helpful. But we also feel like we need to build a foundation, sort of old school foundation, so we can get back to where we were.
Right, right. Yeah. Back to basics sometimes. Sometimes we forget. And it's good to get back there. No, it's great to see all of the work that you're doing. One of the things when I was up in Hannibal, it was actually a meeting. And shout out to my Fiddlesticks crew up there. But it was a meeting with multiple counties at once, and part of the reason there was because some counties that are adjacent or very nearby, at least, only had maybe a couple of folks who were really involved and had fallen off for some time. And instead of kind of letting that happen, they decided to form the Northeastern Democratic group. So that way it's more of a regional thing, and I think you see a lot more partnerships that way. And then if you do have a bad cycle in one county, or a few folks aren't there, or they need some help recruiting, they're helping each other. And I noticed for the forum that's coming up, it's not just the Central Committee for Jefferson County that's putting it on, but you have the Women Dems in Jefferson County, and now St. Genevieve, their club is involved too. So have you? I guess it from at least that event, certainly it looks like folks are working together to get it done. I know St. Gen has been everybody in Jefferson County too has been very active. Is that an approach that you all are looking to explore in the future with more folks? I think Southeast Missouri, they've got a group there that combines a lot of folks from different counties as well. Is that something that we might be seeing too in the Jefferson County area as well?
Yeah, there's no question. There's a number of groups that are trying to do some of the same things that we are. Other people are trying to take efforts in other avenues. But there is a spillover from Jefferson County to St. Francis County,
Right.
St. Genevieve. We absolutely want to work with those counties because there is that spillover. But this needs to be a statewide effort, and we do need to avoid one of the things. I'm a big believer that once Claire McCaskill lost, we don't have any real powerful national figures in Missouri. So we really almost have to go back from the foundation, county by county, and we need to help each other out, and we need to build up from the base back up. That's the only way we're going to be able to do it. And my message, because I reached down to St. Genevieve, but I also, as I reach out to St. Louis City and St. Louis County because I'm trying to tell people in the city and the county, look, we had a lot of Democrats from the city and the county, but we don't have any in Jefferson County. And if we're going to give them any help in the city, you're going to have Democrats from Jefferson County and some of the, this is an area where we can reach out to. And so we need to work with St. Louis County, which we are. We've been talking with a lot of, a lot of the local groups that are on the southern border of Jefferson County as well.
Right.
And we're also working with people in the city. And I think it's the only way for us to go forward is that, people who are in solid Democratic areas are going to have to try to help those that are trying to build back to that area, or we're not going to get anywhere.
We've got, while you're talking, we've got an interesting question coming in from Twitch. Some of it I can't put on the screen, or I'm just choosing not to. I guess I could press the button anytime. But it seems like somebody who's just very down on Missouri. I don't know if they're in Missouri. You can tell me if you want to. But someone who's very down on Missouri, just doesn't see the point. What is the point of all of this stuff and all of this organizing and really trying to do? Is there, I think there's a lot of folks who are just saying, there's no chance. And Missouri is very much racing to a position of really extreme positions in many ways. And maybe we're seeing that because some folks are really interested in the next office rather than the one that they have right now. I think there's a whole lot of reasons for that. And one of those, I think, too, is, somebody else commented, it's great to see Jeffco Dems fighting back. That was over on YouTube from Missouri 05. And I think that's something a lot of folks in certain areas of the state maybe haven't seen. They haven't seen a lot of fighting back or organized efforts from Democrats in particular. I think in some areas you could say that's true about Republicans too, but I think less so. What do you tell folks who are sitting there and they're saying, Bob, man, this all sounds great, but how is this going to work? Like, is there any way this is going to work? And when you are looking at this plan, what should we be expecting? Are we expecting something that's long term? What are we going to see in the short term? But really, what do you tell folks when they're really down on where Missouri is right now?
Well, I try to point out a couple things. Number one, Jefferson County just 12, 13 years ago was solidly blue. When I was a kid, I grew up in St. Louis County. That was solidly red. Well, look at it now. St. Louis County is solidly blue and Jefferson County is solidly red. So these things change over time. But, when I look at the history of just Jefferson County, and yes, if you're looking and saying, are we going to flip Jefferson County in 2022? The answer is realistically no. Okay, we're not going to win all those seats back in 2022 unless some catastrophic event happens, changes people's hearts and minds in a short period of time. The Republicans did a plan that took them a long time. They implemented it, they messaged it, and they came out on it for years and years and years, and that's what successfully turned it. Now, I don't know if it's going to be 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, 8 years, but if we don't fight back, then we might as well just give up. What's the point? So that's what I tell people. We got to fight back, and we have to look long term. The younger generation statistics show that those under 35, okay, those folks are much more progressive than the people who are, I'm 57 and older. Well, guess what? 57 and older, they're going to be around a lot less time than those people who are 35. So it's going to change. The demographics are going to change. If we don't get the messaging out to young people now, if we don't get out that this is what the Democrats stand for, and all they hear are the Republican messages, and then they're going to start to drift that way. So we have an obligation to get this message out of what our belief system is and why we believe that what we're doing is the right thing, because young people see that. If you're in the Republican Party right now, okay, issues that are very important to them are, LGBTQ issues. Okay. My kids look at that and they literally look at me with a blank stare, like, we don't even get why you care about that. Why your generation is so concerned about that. Those issues are going to be different 10 years from now than they are now. The issues of guns, I say that guns are going to be the Republicans' abortion issue. How abortion has hurt Democrats. Guns are going to hurt Republicans because young people see those issues and they're like, no, we don't want guns freely out everywhere because we see the damage that happens. And yes, in Jefferson County, which is a heavily favorable issue where guns are loved here in Jefferson County, I think the younger generation is going to start flipping that back. That's why it's important that we continue to get that message out. When the Republicans won in 2010 in this district, okay, for the first time, there was probably nobody that was more shocked than they were. They didn't expect it. So we have to be there. We have to be ready. We have to work, and we have to be available because you know what? It's not going to flip unless we're there to do it.
Yeah.
Unless we work at it and make it happen. So that's what I tell them. If you're looking at 2022 or 2024, you may be disappointed. But if you continue to work and you look down the road and say, hey, let's look at 2026, 2028 in Missouri. Now I'm talking about Missouri specifically. Mm-hmm. That's where we got to start targeting. And can we pick off some races? The Republicans have a deeply flawed candidate, probably, in this upcoming U.S. Senate race. If it's Eric Greitens, he's a deeply flawed candidate. Okay. So now in Jefferson County, okay, maybe he doesn't win Jefferson County, but instead of losing 60-40, he loses 51, whoever our candidate loses 51-49. Okay. Well, if he's close in other places and wins in St. Lucie, that might be enough to get that candidate over the top. So we just can't give up, even if we're in a county where we think we're going to be red for a few years. We got to make it less red because that's the only way we can win in the state.
Yeah, yeah. And I think not to harp on him too much because I've got a little history there, but with former Governor Eric Greitens, I think it's a prime example of what happens when that those efforts that you're describing don't take place, and somebody like him can then come back, tell a story that's not true, and just kind of catapult himself into office again. And that's an effort that he's really, I think there's just so many of these folks right now who profit off of a lot of this misinformation. There's probably a few people who would profit more personally than he would, but there are a lot of folks out there who don't really know what happened. And I have blame aplenty for plenty of folks who were involved in that whole situation. But that's an example. That is a potential result that you will have somebody in the United States Senate who just a terrible person who had to resign in disgrace from office, who just now broke the law again with his campaign finance, and he might be a crucial vote in the Senate on issues that impact Americans everywhere, and it's unfortunate. So I think for folks who are saying, "Oh, just give up and go," to me, it's a sad. And not really the strongest. I think we've really seen what's happened when folks have or stopped investing in certain areas and put that investment elsewhere, where they've said we're going to concentrate here because this is quote unquote winnable and the other ones aren't. And when you stop fighting in certain areas, everybody sees that, and that's a message that you are communicating to everyone. And I don't think that people really want to, in many ways, associate with any kind of an organization that just gives up at the first sign of resistance. And I think you're right. I mean, Jefferson County has a long history, and really the whole state does. Unfortunately, we're kind of seeing what happens when this disinvestment is in so many communities throughout the state, and folks just feel like they haven't been heard by one side or another, and this whole one side versus the other that folks are really profiting off of seeing going at each other is just it's certainly symptomatic of that deeper problem, but it doesn't get fixed if you just give up. And it's great to see that folks aren't. So we do have a question from Butler County. So not quite
My
Jefferson.
favorite county.
Little bit away, yeah. So let's see. All right, Bob Butler gets a Butler County one. All right, I'm going to put you on the screen here. Martin, it's a longer question, so this is going to take up part of the screen here. I believe Democrats in general have a messaging problem. Example, calling foundationally important social infrastructure programs safety nets when they are fundamentally family and therefore community stabilizing necessities. What are your thoughts about that? So I guess he's asking about some of the particular labels for, I guess, the way that we talk about certain programs in this situation, but it could really apply to anything. Do you see that is a component of any kind of a messaging strategy in terms of how you're talking about or labeling certain things that you're trying to discuss with voters?
Yeah, I don't have any disagreement with that at all. Democrats have not been good at labeling a lot of issues. I'll use defund the police. The idea of what is behind that is actually a good idea. Let's take those resources and let's put them in other ways to fight crime and help communities and people. But we call it defund police, and that's easy for conservatives to say, oh, we don't have police, what are we going to do? So I do think we do have to message things so differently. And that is one of our strategies, as I said earlier, sort of at the beginning. Let's not fight this fight on their turf anymore. Let's not talk about the issues the way Republicans talk about the issues. Let's flip these things on them, and let's try to put them on the defensive on these issues. So when you talk about messaging, yes, he's right. Let's talk about, when you talk about an infrastructure bill, instead of talking about it as a quote unquote safety net, let's talk about, look, you Butler County, you have a hospital down there in Poplar Bluff that was going to be an economic driver down in that region for years to come. Well, the Republicans refused to expand Medicaid. That hospital's gone. I'm pretty sure that hospital's gone now. So
Mm.
that's a big investment in that community that's gone by the wayside, and that hurts people directly in Butler County, Missouri.
Yeah.
So, those are things that's the messaging that we have to say is, look, these are the consequences when we don't expand Medicaid, is that these are jobs, these are families in Butler County that are now, we don't have these resources. We have such a drain on doctors, educated nurses and doctors and other technicians, along with income and along with healthcare. For goodness sakes, rural health. And I mean, you've got to drive, miles and miles and miles to get healthcare. And this is the impact. And that's where we have to that's where we have to take it, is to, yes, very much individualize it. Look, this is how it impacts you. You don't have a doctor in your region because they didn't expand Medicaid, period.
Yeah.
And you're already paying for it, but you're not getting the resources for it because it's a political issue for them.
Yep.
So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, I think that's very very much on point. And for well, actually, for some of these questions that are coming in right now, are really about not just the elections that we've been talking, but we've talked a lot about United States Senate. We've talked a lot about the state representative seats, state Senate seats. But folks are talking about, for example, school board elections and how important those are, or the health board, for example. For other, there are other offices that are very important. Oftentimes, you see folks who, they run for something even more local than state representative. Maybe there's something, within their township or whatever else it might be, and then that's the initial way to get involved. And I mean, you can see, I'm sure. Well, let me not assume anything, but I know for many counties throughout the state, there are local township representatives for each party that often are vacant and are not filled. And a lot of folks don't even know that that's something that they could do, but it's a great way to initially get involved and learn who people are and volunteer in many ways too. So, I mean, for the efforts that you all are looking at, is there a foundational look too at these very, very local races as well to get more candidates running, but also more support for those folks too?
Yes, what we did is we went through, as an organization, we went through and we identified every local office that exists in Jefferson County. And we've identified when those offices are coming up for election. Then we're reaching out to try, because one thing I will say in Jefferson County, and having gone through that list, is I know that there's a lot of local municipalities, Crystal City, and for it's just one example. Peevely is another one, where we know that the people who are running those cities are strong Democrats. We know school board members who we know are strong Democrats, and they get elected because they're nonpartisan elections.
Right.
So yes, we are absolutely looking at that. We're looking to identify, and right now there's a push in this county from the other side to try to get the Patriots, the far right. They're making a push to try to get more people on those school boards because they want to control those mask mandates. And we've made a specific effort. That's one of our specific efforts, is to identify all of these elections and then to make sure that we're not just willy-nilly running people in every race, that we're making sure we're running against people who we know we need to defeat. We have to have our resources directed the right way. And that's the way we have to, that we have to quote unquote build the bench down in Jefferson County. And we do. We have somebody who's going to run for state rep, or at least has expressed great interest in running for state rep, who ran last time for the ambulance board and got the local union support in a nonpartisan election and was the highest vote getter out of 5 candidates in that. And now she's hopefully going to run for state representative. And now people are going to see that she's already represented the county. So
Right.
that is absolutely what we have to do. It's very much part of what, we've tried to break it down. We could sit here and think of 100 things we could do as a county. And one of the things that we said we had to prioritize was building our base, But then also, secondly, building our bench. And that means identifying these elections, recruiting candidates to run for school boards and local municipal elections, fire boards, and et cetera, and making sure that we have good represented Democrats on those boards. So that's sort of the two prongs of what we're mainly doing. Is that's been our direction at this point.
Yeah. Well, that's great. And for folks, if you're inspired, you want to get involved and help out, make sure to go to their website. You can learn more, Jefferson County MoDemCentralCommittee.org. You can also search for just the Jefferson County, Missouri Democrats, too, on Google. You'll find them. But that's a great place to get involved. Bob, this was super helpful. Very excited. We're going to have, I got to plug this thing again too. Hold up. We've got the forum that's coming up. It is going to be on Wednesday. So if you want to see Bob more, come on down to this thing, 7 p.m., November 3rd in person. You can get in starting at right around 6 o'clock and come a little bit early. It will be at the Fine Arts Theater. You can RSVP for that. And hold up, I'll get that little link up on the screen too. It's over at bit.ly/JeffCo Forum. There are a few seats left, but if you'd like to stream it, like I said too, you'll be able to see it really here. We're going to be streaming it right here, wherever you're watching it from. And if you are a group or even an individual and you want to also share it with your network too, just go ahead and comment here and I'll make sure to get you that link. Bob, this was great. Thank you so much for coming on. I guess I'm going to see you in just a little bit anyway, right?
Yes. By Wednesday. Yeah, I hope so.
Well, great. Well, tell the dogs they did a good job or a bad job
great.
for those who really wanted to see them, I guess. But maybe next time we'll have to do one on site. And for the rest of you, enjoy the rest of the weekend. Watch the Mizzou game later today, which is why we did an early morning one today. And as always, you can always visit us at eladgross.live. All right, everybody, you take care and have a good weekend.